Hello, good evening. Hope everyone's well. Thanks for coming along and joining me. Is this the bottom in the S&P or stock indexes? Well, oops, I got problems. Sound problems. There we go. It might be. If I look at this in terms of fib projections, so how am I measuring these? Oh, I've got these wrong. Let's put them on. I'm going to say possibly. If we're in an uptrend, you know, very often, especially in a nice trending market, you don't want to come back into the previous swing high. You want that to be support. So, for example, here we had a nasty pullback, but we came back kind of into the previous highs and up we go. You know, for me, if we break the previous swing low, that's a trend reversal, isn't it? Because an uptrend is higher highs and higher lows. As soon as you break one, you haven't got that anymore, and you're in the picture of a bigger correction, like we did here. When we broke this low, we had a rally, and this was a bigger correction. We haven't done that here. Potentially, this is therefore, potentially, this is, you know, just a pullback. We could, with this double top, say, you know, but I'm going to say, look at this daily 50 moving average. Look what incredible support this has been in this uptrend, and look how we've repeated the pattern of pulling back to it and holding. One of the things that I will say is, in a correction, very often when you pull back to a 50% level, which we have here, then very often your first swing higher is 50% again. So mean reverting markets, or markets that revert to mean or 50% back, tend to keep doing that. So our next resistance in this rally in this S&P is going to come 50% up here, which is 46.16. And so we'll see what happens there. We may there see another, because this is also, we're stuck in between our daily moving averages, aren't we? The 50 and the 20. So that kind of adds to the resistance here as well. So it may be that we rally to 46.16 and then we do 50% pullback here before we continue higher. So that would be a back test, almost back to this 236 fib again, wouldn't it? So pull back. If we were to do a harmonic pattern here, our next swing is going to end up at the highs. But, you know, one of my favorite buy setups, as I pointed out last week, was when you have an equal measured move back to a 50% correction. So that's where we were on the 1st of December. What we did basically since then is we've back tested this support with a swing failure pattern, haven't we? Now, if we were to say this is a sideways range, this potentially could be a bearish correction. We could just rally 50% from this high to this low, and then we could do another leg lower from here. If you think of it, this is it has the look of an irregular correction, doesn't it? So we go A, B, C, hourly 200 moving average. You know, the 200 moving average pretty much on any time frame that you look at, for me, is the king of the chart in terms of trends. So 46.16 is going to be tough overnight or tomorrow, and then we'll see what happens from there. If we get above it, then I would be quite excited that this potentially is the bottom. If we don't, then it all gets a little bit more messy. And this month actually could end up being messy, even with Corona. Now, I think the reaction to this new, I personally think the reaction to this new coronavirus is a little bit overdone, because we don't know yet. And it is possible that it's not that serious in terms of the effect it has on people. But, you know, never underestimate the ability of a government to overreact, especially when it's too late and they want to make up for how they didn't react well enough the first time. So, you know, we could end up with some economic damage from this, even if it's not that serious of a virus. But for me, I think a more infectious virus that doesn't kill people is good news, because we get our herd immunity. So, but I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist. I did science at school, but I'm not going to pretend to be one now. Okay, so I just think that the reaction may have been a little bit overdone. So that's how I see stock indexes, and we've seen exactly the same pattern here in the NASDAQ. So if I take a look at this most recent swing here, from the lows to the highs in the NASDAQ. We've bounced very nicely off the 50%. We're not actually rallying quite as nicely as the S&P. But for me, back to 50% of the high to low would be where our resistance is. So if we draw that in and go 50% the other way, the top of our channel, that puts us back to around 16,164 in the NASDAQ on the upside. And this, I've drawn this as a parallel channel. I drew it based on these first two lows. But now if I third touches of trend lines are almost always false breakdowns, false breakouts. But if we just make it a parallel channel like this, it's finding it a little bit difficult to fit in here on this hourly. Probably looks a bit better on the daily. A bit like that. Anyway, here's our third touch, false breakout, and bullish. So an upside target would be back to this top of this channel if we can get there. Hopefully that would also be back to the 20 moving average. Now for me, the 236 tonight, I'd really like to see the NASDAQ close above this 15,828. That would be a bullish reversal. If it can't, that leaves it kind of still technically in terms of fibs in a downtrend and vulnerable to a full kind of retest of the lows. So NASDAQ is lagging the S&P, but everything, all these other stock indexes, they all look really bullish. If we look at this weekly, you know, how we're holding these moving averages in the Dow as well, you know, no reason to panic yet. That doesn't mean that this wasn't just the first drop in the series of a 3-wave correction lower, but it does mean that we're right. The trouble has come from, in my point of view, from the dollar index. So the dollar index for me overshot the level that I was expecting it to correct at. And when you do that, you tend to look for a head and shoulders pattern. That's the pattern the market very often makes when it overshoots the level. Here we didn't do it though. We've gone sideways in kind of, it started out as a diamond and it's just got kind of really long sideways. This choppy though, overlapping, struggling to rally for me is not bullish. So, you know, this COVID might be good news and it's not as bad as we think it is, but it might be bad news because the Fed, you know, they can't do anything or their hands are tied because of it. And so if we see a big rally, we continue to rally in the stock market, we could see downward pressure on this dollar index and we could see people starting to anticipate the taper being delayed because of the new coronavirus. I don't know. You know, I suppose if everything does slow down because people are sick, like let's face it, even if it's not a very serious virus, if everybody catches it very quickly, so a lot of people are sick at the same time, that would be a negative for the economy. That could slow things down, take the heat off. And so we could see this as a move lower and a rally and then another move lower before this correction is done in the dollar index. And if we were to do that, you know, that would make sense. If I draw my fibs from the lows here and we put it onto the daily, if we take from this swing low, the 236 fib was at 95.19. Well, if we were to turn and do another leg lower, say we were to measure this low to high and project it from here, where could we rally to? Wouldn't be surprised if we rallied up here to 96 and then did another leg lower in a big 3-wave correction. You know, we'd catch up with this 200 moving average and then turn up again. So that wouldn't be a surprise at all. So maybe a smidge higher with a pullback day tomorrow and then a big another leg lower in the dollar with a rally in stock indexes to make this a bigger ABC correction in the dollar index. Another move lower would really help a bounce in Bitcoin and crypto and oil and everything else that looks really ropey at the moment, like silver or gold as well. So this has been quite tricky sideways trading for FX. If we look at, for example, this is a weekly chart of the Japanese yen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in this horrible sideways range. Flag pattern, I think this is a bullish flag. That doesn't mean we can't come back with another swing lower in it. But, you know, 2 months of sideways trading is very tough in FX. And that seems to be what we're seeing, you know, some pretty tricky markets out there. The only one that really doesn't care is the dollar, is the Turkish lira, but that's on its own trajectory. That's a story for another day. The nasty story for me, do you remember last time or a couple of weeks ago, in natural gas, we were looking here, I was looking here at this being a nice bullish reversal, this close above the daily 50. I thought everything looked good after a 3-wave correction for a rally in nat gas, and instead we reversed. We lost the horizontal support that we were looking at, this big 236 fib level, and that we lost the equal measured move support that we were looking at. 3.626, which is where we've dropped down to in this swing low, potentially is some support, but I really don't like this underneath the 200 moving average, and I wouldn't be tempted to buy this unless we recovered it, got back above it like we did here. You know, the 200 moving average is pretty good trend guide, and here when we found support from it. So yeah, if we don't, this has got further to fall. Let's take some of this away and clean up a little bit, because see, underneath that 50% level, where's the 61.8? 3.36. It's ridiculous, you know, what prices for gas are in Europe compared to the USA. So just crazy. So I just thought I'd mention that. I am looking at silver to see if silver can hold this level here at 22.27. At the moment, though, it looks like we're going to close on the day underneath it, which makes it a bit of a negative and still in a downtrend. So bit of funky sideways broadening wedge almost at this support level in silver. Not a bottom yet anyway. Now if we continue lower, then 21.8 is where we're going to end up in silver in this broadening wedge. Yeah, I really do like oil for a bounce here. Let's talk about this. This is front month spot. This is the 236 fib level. Big drop. You know, I think that we're due a bounce in oil. Not necessarily the bottom. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not. But I do like these kind of basing patterns. This is the January front month. This kind of bottoming look has a really good look. So oil loves the 786 and the 38.2 fib. So the 38.2 fib is at 70.60, which would be a back test of that big round number. And so that would make quite a lot of sense from here, wouldn't it, for oil? So looking for a back test of 70 and see what happens there. Let's move on to crypto, if there's no questions. Luke says we should be more worried about the vaccine death rate and people not working because of it. Well, you know, I'm not anti-vax. I did have the first 2, but I was really hopeful. And I'm not rushing to have a booster because I just don't. If the first 2 vaccines didn't work, why am I rushing to have a third one? You know, I've had 2 vaccines and the actual virus. God, I've got to have some antibodies soon, haven't I? Like, so yeah, I agree with you. I don't know, the first 2 vaccines didn't kill me, but I think it's really disappointing that they didn't work better. That is for sure. Okay, I won't have the booster. I'm going to wait anyway. I literally have only just, you know, had the real thing. All right, let's look at Bitcoin. Now, for a couple of weeks, for quite a while, I thought that we were at risk of a drop to, I thought we really were at risk of a drop to 40 to this 44 number. Actually, I thought that our level was 42. Now, where does this 42 come from? Let's take that away. Actually, no, it's not. What I thought this was, and I'm going to go to the weekly. I'm going to go to log scale. And we're going to look at what we've done since the low that we made in 2018 after the nasty drop then. I think we made a wave 1, a wave 2, a big wave 3, and that we are still in this wave 4 going sideways. And the reason that I think that we're still in this wave 4 going sideways is because waves 2 and waves 4 tend to take either they're very similar in price or time. And in this case, obviously, we're not similar in price, but we are similar if we continue until the end of the year, until the 27th of December, we're similar in time. And that would make sense. So not only that, but wave 2 and wave 4 corrections are very often not the same. So in here, we had a very simple 3-wave ABC, didn't we? And so it would make sense if we had an irregular correction here in this wave 4 position. So if we think regular 3-wave corrections look like this, then an irregular one, you know, they're the same price. Sometimes they look like that. And I think so this was this first one here. And I think that this is what we're doing here in wave 4. Now, I might be wrong. It may be that this is wave 4 correction complete, that it is much smaller than this wave 2, and that this rally, which you could argue is 5 waves, is wave 1 of the new 5th wave. If that's the case, then we would expect this to pull back 50 or 61.8, and then the next swing higher would be really strong upside movement, because it would be a wave 3, wouldn't it? A wave 3 of 3. So this is 1, so wave 3 of 5 actually, but wave 3 anyway should be strong. So if from this low we see a really strong, powerful rally that takes us to new highs, I'm wrong, and this is wave 1 of a new wave 5, and that's how we're going to count it. Either way, I don't think this is the top. I think this is either a wave 4 or the wave 1 of wave 5, and we're going to keep going. And this is still just a pullback. But it does make a difference, because if this is not a new wave 1, and we're still in our wave 4, and this is this irregular correction, then this 61.8 might just be the first swing, and then we bounce, and then we do another swing down to equal, but sometimes we go and make a new low, and we go to this 1272, so that's kind of, you know, got to be very careful. So at the moment, we're holding on to the weekly moving averages, which are such nice support for Bitcoin, and the 61.8 levels. So potentially, yeah, not just in stocks, potentially this could be the bottom in Bitcoin as well. But because of this timing thing, and because I don't think we'll make a bottom till the end of December, and we're only on the 6th of December, you know, it may be that we do one of those things where we bounce and we do a retest to the lows and a double bottom before we head off again. So I think that we can afford to be a little bit cautious before we buy, to make sure that it really is a bottom, and that we see, you know, it tested. Look, Bitcoin loves to, when it does make a bottom, retest it. At the moment, this is just a really nice bounce level. So we could say, you know, let's let it build a base. Here, when we built after this 3-wave correction, look what we did. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days sideways before we launched again. So if you're looking at this and you've got some FOMO, just because it looks like it's bouncing a little bit, I would say, you know, let's chill out and let it calm down and everything catch up. Okay, so this is yes, it is a bias for up, 45 westward. Yes, it is. I just think that we might bottom at the end of the December. So that might, you know, that could look like a number of things. It could look like it. And we could do one of those horrible Bitcoin retests where we make a marginal new low and we trick everybody, you know, to dump it, and then up it goes, you know, between Christmas and New Year when nobody's looking. That would, you know, be quite that would be a very Bitcoin thing to do. Let's put it that way. So I think 46.60 is a really good level. If we were to, just want to say, if we were to get underneath 46.60 and it were to become resistance, that I think we should look at, because there is a serious chance that we do the equal move to 32,800 or 33,000. Now, if it was to come down to 33,000, seriously, back up the truck, borrow everything you can, mortgage your house. I know, I'm joking. I wouldn't ever tell anyone to do that. Be very careful with leverage in Bitcoin, especially over holiday periods and thin liquidity. It can all get a little bit crazy. So we'll watch out for that. But certainly, if it came down to here, I'm buying. I'm definitely buying. So, okay. Here, I haven't bought any yet. I'm kind of sitting on my hands watching it. I sold it all the way back here. Everyone laughed at me. I think I sold it in October. I tweeted it. I can't remember what date it was. I took profit on my longs. 61. I sold it at 61,500. And there was times here when I thought, oh my God, we're going up. I'm an idiot. And, sideways. It's really hard. You just have to have a plan and stick to it. So I'm going to buy if we hold and make a base here, or I'm going to buy a drop down to 33,000. That's where I am. So that's how I'm seeing Bitcoin tonight. Now, obviously, if you were in the futures, and why people say, why are we going sideways here like this? Well, imagine that you were long here and you're offside. Like you don't want to buy more to lower your average, do you? Because there's a risk that we could come all the way down to the spike and retest it. So if you weren't able to, so people who trade Bitcoin, for example, through ETFs or ETNs or, exchange traded funds, they can't trade at the weekends the way people in the spot market can. And so, we've had this big drop down to 43,000. Then we've bounced and going sideways, and we're back at 53,000. People are going to go, wow, well, that's, rallied $7,000. What am I going to do? It's rallied 10% already off the lows. Am I going to buy it here? No, I want it to pull back. And the people who bought it further down, or they bought it around 46,000 and they've seen it bounce up here, they're not going to sell because they think it's going to keep going. So it's in that kind of no man's land. It's not low enough to buy and it hasn't bounced enough to take profit. And so we're having a little bit of a bull bear fight sideways. Ultimately, I think that we'll creep higher. We'll at least test 50,000. I've revised this. If this is starting to look like a bounce and a three-wave correction, in which case 51,000, and then the equal measured move from this low takes us back to fill the CME gap. That pink line is the CME gap, so that would be the gap filled. I think we would then see people definitely taking profit there, especially with this double bottom low. So 2 upside targets if we end up just creeping higher here, which I'm kind of leaning towards. So if you're looking at short-term trades, a breakout from this sideways range, that's where we're going. 51 and 53,370. Similar things in ETH, but ETH is really outperforming at the moment. So in Ethereum, US dollar with this move lower, which really snapped back. Three-wave correction. Didn't close below the equal measured move at all, did we? In fact, it looks very nice in that respect. And this 61.8, when you do that three-wave, that 61.8 becomes resistance. Here we are at a resistance. If we break that, I think we're going to go to the top of the range up here. And yeah, this may well be over. Why might it well be over? Because if we take a look at ETH Bitcoin is seriously outperforming Bitcoin. Let's look at the daily or the weekly even. So we had this 61.8 level resistance at 0.826. Resistance becomes support, and as long as we stay above 0.0826, we're going to keep looking higher to make a Gartley pattern all the way up here at 0.1007. So for the next little while, that would be, we could see ETH outperform Bitcoin. If we look at it on a low time frame, it looks like a perfect pullback retest, doesn't it? 3 waves, back to our support level, and up we go again. So keep buying pullbacks. What we might do here, you know, sometimes at this high, we might see a little bit of a this here and so on. These are the kind of pullbacks I mean when I say buy pullbacks, you know. Okay. So ETH to outperform Bitcoin. So I think it's worth having a little bit of ETH. And potentially we may have made a low, but I do expect that low to be retested at the end of December. Just on based on cycles, really. Okay. So let's move on to charts requested or of interest. One of the charts that's outperforming is Ripple, but Ripple's, so if we, I'll say why I think we're outperforming in Ripple. If I look at this, so if I measure from this low to this high, we pull back to the 786 up to the 38.2. Everything's kind of good in that respect. Have we made a 3-wave correction here in ETH? Yes, we have. One of the things that makes me think, though, here we can see we're exactly holding it. Didn't close underneath it on the weekly. We did on the daily, almost. So here's our 3-wave correction complete. Potentially then, in Ripple, we could make a base and rally from here. One of the reasons that makes me a little bit nervous that we might go a bit lower is what if this is 1, 2, 3, those are A, B, C or X, Y, Z. So this is, in other words, what if this swing and this swing have a connection? In that case, the 61.8 of this swing is all the way back at the lows at 0.5. So I'm going to say, if we can't, first of all, if we can't get above this 0.6 at 81.39, we're going to still go lower in Ripple. But more importantly, if we can't get above 1.03, we could rally back there and still do a 5th wave lower in Ripple in December. For now, though, if we get above 81.39, I think we'll have a bounce to 1.03. And then let's be a little bit careful because we may do one more swing lower. Now, it might go a little bit higher than that. Sometimes these legs are equal. So if we were to do that, yeah, it's a little bit of an overshoot. Anyway, yeah, back above 0.8139, then I think we'll see a bounce in Ripple. It's a little bit woolly through this level at the moment. But it was a resistance here earlier today, so let's see. Okay, next one we're going to look at is our request for MATIC. A lot of altcoins don't look very good, do they? But here's one that doesn't look bad at all. So MATIC's in this rising channel. It's riding these moving averages very nicely. The daily 200 here, daily 200 here. I thought we might come back and test this daily 200 here, but no, we held, in fact, the daily moving averages. So for me, we're still going higher. You know, these fib levels aren't working that well. And so when they're not, you know, I just kind of say, right, let's try measuring instead. See what the relationship is between these swings. Because this one was equal to this one. So if we make another swing equal here, if these two corrections are equal, we'll be looking for a third drive. So if this one and this swing are equal, which they were, then this last drive is probably going to be equal to this first drive in MATIC. Why? Because if this is a big ABC, this is A, and then this is funky B, and then C. So I'm going to measure from here. I'm going to put it from the lowest low here and say, yeah, I think that this does look pretty bullish for MATIC. And 2.62 is my next upside target for MATIC against Tether. Now, this resistance here at 2.17, so if we can get above 2.17, the next swing trade is to 2.62. I'm going to take this away, I'm not sure what that's there for. Okay. Let's see how we're doing here. That's our resistance. So above 2.17, we should go. Don't let this reverse too much, but certainly on the daily, it looks, you know, these tails point to buyers, so looking good. What do I reckon Bitcoin will be worth in 10 years? I have no idea. I really don't, to be honest. A lot more than it is now. It's just like pulling numbers out of your hat, you know. I don't really like doing that, to be honest. I like going swing to swing. So yeah, MATIC network, I do like this to continue higher to 2.62, but only if we can close above 2.17. I do like BNB at the moment. I think it's holding up really well. I think it held up really well in the Binance coin. I think it held up really well in the sell-off. I think it's made a really nice equal measured move. I think it's made a really nice swing failure. If we look at horizontal levels and we go from this high here to this low here, I think it's made a very good swing failure pattern. So if this one can get back above these moving averages on the daily, then we're going up again. And I can see this as a little bit of a flag pattern, which is how I had it drawn. So here's our top of our flag. Here's the bottom of our flag. So you can see that that would make sense as the bullish flag. That means that the resistance is back at the top rail of this bullish flag, obviously around 630. So yes, Binance coin, like it very much, but this daily 50 is the first problem resistance, and whilst we're underneath it, there's a risk that we could go all the way back down and retest the lows. So I'm being very cautious. I really don't want to buy it until I see it back above that daily 50, and that's at 570. So here we can see we're at 567. If we could just go that little bit past this high, then I would breathe a little bit. Or a daily close tonight above 570. I would like this much better, and my outside target would be up here at 639. We need to watch out in BNB that this is another one where this is not just a three-wave correction, 3 equal swings, because if that's my target and I project it from here, you can see that it lines up with my trend line. And if so, if we were to stop here and come back and reverse and get back, say, underneath 589, this would mean that this whole rally was just a correction and we're not going to break out of the bull flag. So that's how I'm seeing BNB at the moment. If we can break out of the bull flag, the next target is 800 to 820. So for now, yeah, looks good. First mission is to get above 570 and then to the top of this swing in BNB. I also like VRA, which is on this page. Similar reason. Back to the 200-day moving average, which is the king of the chart. I'm just going to clean up this. Now, if this is like Bitcoin, this to me looks like Bitcoin, right? This pullback, this rally just looks too much like 3 waves, doesn't it? So what if this swing, so this is first swing of correction, B leg, weird, irregular, and this is equal. Well, here we are at the equal place. This is where we would want to rally from if it is equal. Look at these big long tails and the 200 moving average. So that's pretty good news, because it means if we do make a base and rally from here, I at least know where my target is. It's back to the 61.8 level at 0.0573 here. So that's the badly drawn target, 0.573. So we need, looking pretty good for a base here, doesn't it? We would be confirmed having made a base, because we've got this sideways range that we need to break out of above 0.0435, and then target is 0.0575. So not looking bad in veracity at all. And because it's that giant AB correction finished, then potentially we go to new highs from here. So the 200 moving average, 200-day moving average is the king of the chart in terms of trend. So if we're holding this and we can bounce, then we're looking good. One of the ways that I like to confirm it is to get above that 236 fib from the high. So from this high to this low, that would mean the bullish reversal confirmed in veracity above 0.04293. So 0.04293, and then we'd be looking for that 50%, 0.058. So that's a nice bounce trade as well, which potentially could become something more. So I'm looking at that one. Solana is also in a pretty, well, I wouldn't say my favorite, but in fact I've lost Solana. Now, if this was our first swing lower to this low, and then we made an A, B, C irregular bounce. Why is it irregular? Because this low is lower than this one. So we go A, B, C to the top, and then this second swing is equal to the first. This third swing is equal. That's it. We hit the level, didn't we? Now if I line it up, don't know how that got so weird. You can see that target was 170.79. And our low was 171. So, you know, we are pretty there. Hello, Arrow. So Solana has also made a very nice, potentially three-wave correction. We've just missed the level. And so that may mean sometimes that it gets retested before we go again. But if we hold the lows from the 4th of December, I really do like Solana to start up again from here as well. That would be correction complete. I put before, when we were way back, that the measured move support was at 170.80, looking for a base here. So far we're making a base, we're holding. Just watch out for those retests, because you never know. But if we continue higher, if we turn up from here in Solana, I'm looking for 280 to 300. Target. I'm not quite clear where the target is on this one. It's not so clear. So good luck. Solana still in an uptrend then and holding up pretty nicely. Atom is also, let's go to Atom. The 200-day moving average on the daily is always the king of the chart, but let's take a look at this weekly, because trends are usually, impulse moves are usually three ways, pullbacks are 5 ways, sorry, pullbacks are usually 3 ways. Did we do this here pretty nicely? It's kind of funky, let's see. There is lots to like about this one. Most of what there is to like is this 200 daily moving average. Let's go back in history here and look at this 200 daily moving average, and what a good guide to the trend it really has been. Tagged it here and bounced like a rocket off it twice. I don't know that we're going to do the same again, but what I usually like to look for is confluence. Does the moving average line up with anything else that would make it a good support or resistance level or fib level or reason to get involved? If I go all the way down from the low all-time lows to highs, this is also the 50% level. The 50% level of all-time lows to highs is always an interesting level. So we're interested because of that, and this 200-day moving average. And then if I take the most recent 5-wave swing here, we're also at the 61.8, almost. So for a number of reasons, this zone is, yeah, really exciting for us to make a base and see if we can bounce from here. Now I'm going to adjust this So that was the first swing lower. If we were to, I'm just going to see if this, in Elliott wave, they always put everything in an equal channel. I don't think we had anything like that here, but anyway, these lows, let's put it this way. If we take the 50% for the most recent swing, these highs and lows and 26.31 would probably be the first resistance. And if we got above that, I think we could reasonably say that we've got a bigger bounce going on to retest the highs. So that's what I'd like to see. But because this is a big 50% from the all-time lows to highs, if we do reverse here, I'd like to see 50%, a 50% rally of this high to this low, because mean reverting markets tend to do that. Keep mean reverting. So that would mean our target, if we can get a reversal here, would be 33.37 and these highs. So that would be a good look, wouldn't it? 33.37. It would make sense. Previous highs, daily 50, and so on. So let's see if we can make a base and bounce here. So far it's very tentative. Very tentative. We haven't even flipped our hourly moving averages. So I would be a little bit patient and wait and see. And you know, let's look at the big levels in this one, because it dislikes to retest the levels as well. Look, here's a low, here's a nasty shake out of that low, high, really huge bounce. It's a very crypto thing, you know, to retest these highs and lows. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again in Atom, but yeah, it's a great, great place for Atom to bounce. Love it. Luna. Luna didn't care about the sell-off, did it? Well, I suppose it did, but not like... Here's Luna. So on the daily, so for this big swing, I put the 236 fib on. So this would be my trend support. And that came in at 60.74. And if I project from this most recent, so I'm going to measure, wait. So I'm measuring the low to the high on that first swing higher and projecting it from this big 3-wave pullback. This is where I got my fib levels from. I'm not entirely sure that they're working, but I'm going to leave them on for now anyway. As far as I'm concerned, more importantly, as long as we stay above this 236 fib and 60.61, we're still in an uptrend on the daily, and this is just a pullback. And so far, looks really good. 4-hour moving averages look really good. Hourly should look really good with our 200 moving average. And again, look at this 200 moving average on the hourly. Resistance, support, support when you get above it, support when you pull back to it, support when you pull back to it. So as long as we now stay above 60.7, I'm thinking we have a go at a rally. Now we could end up just doing 3 waves up, and that would say this is just a correction. But for now, this is still an uptrend, and this is the place where you would be looking to pull back to in an uptrend to buy it. So far pretty good for Luna. AVAX. So this one was a request. So I'm just going to hide that because that was pretty tough resistance. Okay. So I think we've done a wave 1, wave 2. This is 1, 2, 3, and we've got another wave to come. And if we measure wave 1 and project it and see wave 3 here, it's a little bit longer, but it's not quite long enough. So You know, any way you look at this, this isn't ideal, and I'm not quite sure where we are here, I have to be honest, in AVAX. But any way you measure it, this is an uptrend. We had a swing higher, pull back to these highs, we swing higher, we pull back to these highs. This is a really good place to rally from. If we don't then make a new high, we can say, oh, well, we've probably gone into a sideways consolidation, or we are, you know, in a bigger correction before we continue high. Either way, whichever way you look at these weekly moving averages, we are in an uptrend, and this is a three-wave correction. So if we were to get back above 98.15, we've done an ABC, confirmed an ABC correction, sorry, 98.72, and we're on our way up again. Why? Because sometimes, you know, three-wave corrections stop at the 61.8, which is here, and sometimes that level becomes resistance. And for me, it almost always confirms it when you get above that level. So that's what I'm looking for bullish confirmation in AVAX, above 98.72. Holding a really good support level, looking all right. That would say to me we're going up again. Then I would probably draw it like this and say, are we going to get out of our declining channel like this? And let's see if we do next swing higher. Happy days. Now I'm going to go back to, where's the one that I hid? There we go. If we can make a new high above 142, my next fib projection says 225 for this next swing, which would be really cool if we can do it. So a retest of 142 would be first target, and then 225 would be second target for AVAX. Next one is SPAL. Someone asked me at SPAL on Twitter because had a really nice move today, and SPAL is also, like a lot of coins, have done the same pattern. So here, SPAL at new lows. I put my fibs on from this high to low. First off, we haven't been able to get above the weekly 20 moving average. So for me, that's not quite enough. You know, you can see how this 20 moving average, once we got in a downtrend, was pretty tough resistance for SPAL. So we really do need to close back above that if we're going up again. That's 0.014. But also, if I put my fibs on from highs to lows, this 236 fib is here, and that's at 0.0137. So SPAL, we're really close to it if we look on the hourly. But you can see this is where SPAL really needs to be above and holding above. So if I saw this, I would say, yeah, that's a great place to buy SPAL. But at the moment, this is resistance. So also, was this a... I don't think it was, but... No. You know, this has a pretty good look. If we could just close above it, that's what I want to see in SPAL. So 0.014, just let's see if we can close above it and hold above it. And then I think we've got that reversal we're looking for. Until then, just like a lot of stuff trying to make a bottom, there's a risk that we come back and we make an inverted head and shoulders pattern. There's a risk we come all the way back and double bottom, you know, before we make a bottom. So SPAL, not really bullish unless we get back above 0.014. EGLD, also questions about this one today. Why? Now, let's talk about on the daily about this correction. So if I go from the all-time lows to highs, and I've got this locked, I think. Here we go. If I go from the all-time lows to the all-time highs, here we are sitting, holding, not closing below the 50% retrace. That's always going to be an exciting level of interest. So here we are sitting on it at 275. If we take the most recent swing higher, the most recent 5 swing, we've bounced from the 61.8. That's always going to be an interesting consolidation. You tend to bounce from a 61.8, go back to the 38. You tend to bounce between the 61.8 and 38.2, and the middle becomes a pivot. So sometimes you do that, sometimes you do this, you know. I'm not sure. It's a consolidation zone, the golden ratio zone. What is clear though is in the middle, this 50% level, when you're in this zone, is a bit of a pivot level. And you can see how it's acted like that here before. Highs, highs, lows, lows when we were above it. So I see 298 then as quite important on a bounce resistance. If we were to close above 298 and hold above it, we could probably get back up to 356. So far we're going back and forward through it. But that's what I'd like to see. So a bit of wavering back and forward in EGLD. Now the other reason why this might be of interest, you kind of look at it and think, did we do 3 swings? Remember, in a correction you have one, you have a middle wave, B wave, and then you have a second wave, right? And you should be able to see the B wave split into 3 as well. In this one, I don't think we can see that clearly here, and it's not very big relative to this, is it? But what if this was A, and then this was B, and then this was C? Then I would expect that and that to be equal. So yeah, maybe this is, and this is kind of equal, I suppose. So yeah, maybe this is correction complete. So if this is the 61.8, this is the middle, and this is the 38.2, then we know clearly if we get above that 38.2 that we're done. But I just wouldn't rule out a bit of this before we do. So, but that would signify, then that would be a nice breakout signal, wouldn't it? Okay, so potentially EGLD is in a good place also for a bottom here and a move higher. Let's talk about where EGLD might go. If this really steep correction is over, let's tidy up. I keep drawing dots, that's why. Okay. Dots everywhere. One of the things, as you know, I like to see if corrections equal in price or time. So if this was this correction, 1.618, okay. Really don't want to come much lower, do we? Yeah, I'm not really. I think it is a great place to rally, and if it is a 5th wave, then this swing and this swing would have a relationship, and so 571 maybe and 787. That would be amazing. So quite a lot of work though for EGLD. I have to say, not my favorite one. I don't like, there's a few things that I don't like about it. One of the things is I usually like to see it hold this previous swing low, which it may still, you know, we could rally back and still hold this. This would be the best look, wouldn't it, in terms of trend, if we can hold this low here and close above it. I don't normally like to see it make a new swing low, because that normally for me that means we've reversed the trend. So then I'm looking for a lower high and another leg lower. I don't like to see us underneath the daily moving averages. We really do need to get back above them and find support from them, or we're going to keep going lower. If we just rally back to them, there's a risk we do another leg down to the 200 moving average. So it's not my favorite of the ones that are set up to bounce, but it is in a good place, I suppose, to have a go. Finally, loop ring. Loop ring. Let's go to the weekly, because when I measured on this one, this is kind of where I was looking for it to hold support. It's got some pretty long tails, so it definitely went a bit further than I should. But when we look at this, if we hide some of this stuff, and we look at this weekly consolidation, this is super bullish, isn't it? No pullback at all, not giving back anything. And if we count from the lows, potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, and another leg higher in a wave 5. So quite a good look in terms of trend, in terms of not giving anything too much back. If we just go from this low, where are we? 50% back. That's ideal in a pullback, isn't it? 50% back. So yeah, that would mean, so this is another one that's done an ABC pullback to a 50%. So we would expect the rally to the 50%, then have a 50% pullback, and then we'll see which way we get tighter and tighter until we break out. So from here, I would expect loop ring to continue to rally to that 50% level, which I can't read, so I'm going to have to put it on the right. There we go. 2.725. So on the daily, holding the daily moving averages really nicely. Again, 3-wave correction. So let's see what happens at 2.725. Might see a bit of a pullback there. Above there, back to the highs, I would say, and potentially, yeah, next swing's begun. It looks like it should, doesn't it? Sometimes though, especially with this 50% level, sometimes you might do a bit of this before you, I've seen this before you break a base. Especially this is how long, if I take a look at how long wave 2 took, which I need to go back to log scale for, then this is how long in time this one took. Again, that puts us 9th. Yeah, another bit longer. Let's wait for the retest. That says 9th of December to be equal. Okay. I'll look at XMR for you, Lucas, and I'll look at BAX. Okay. Back, yes, let's start with the weekly chart of this one. So, remember one of the things, like my favorite sell setup or reversal, from this low to this high and this pullback, we kind of don't want them to be equal, really. It would be better if they didn't, because that back to a 50% is usually a little bit of a warning. So this 61.8 now becomes key support. I think we've done our 50% pullback though, haven't we? So we've rallied to 50%. And then if we put this on, this pullback, if we pull back enough, yeah, 50%. So now we're going to look for this to be 50%. So we break the pattern, really. That's tends to be what it does. In fact, we've rallied more than that. Okay. I'm happy to say in that case that we've broken this pattern with a little bit of a bullish reversal. And so I'm expecting this to keep going higher now. And let's switch to the hourly. Let's look at it like this. This is a pretty nice 3-wave correction, isn't it? 1, 2, 3 equal. Very nice 3-wave correction then. I would expect us, if we can get above this 61.8 where we're just stalled, to keep going higher. And next leg up. We're right at a stall level though. It may mean that, you know, remember, especially you can do double bottoms or retest the lows or retest the highs and it doesn't ruin the pattern. So we could do that all the way back here and not ruin this sort of bullish ABC pattern. So yeah, I'm leaning to more bounce from here, and I think above sort of 12,400 we would retest these highs and hopefully new highs. Backs looks all right then. Yeah, it's bouncing on good news. So let's look at XMR before we go. So XMR. Which everything looks ready to bounce, doesn't it? This is, I'm not sure that I've even drawn this correctly, but so rather than do that, let's put regular candles on and have a look. I just want to hide these for a second. Moving averages, when you're going sideways and you're all bunched up, don't tend to help you. So here's our first big rally off the low. From this low. And there's our 3 waves back. This one was 61.8, so we've gone A, B, C. And now we're looking for A, B, C. Okay. Zigzagging. I'm not sure that we've come back far enough. I'm going to say this, all the time that we stay under 220 in Monero. I would buy Monero if it went back above 220. Okay, because that's the level I was hoping to hold, and it didn't. So if we could get back above 220, I would be a buyer. Otherwise, I'm afraid I think that we could drop. There's a risk we bounce and see one more drop to 171. Okay? John Beasley says VASF, hold on. Now, just I want to see what that is gonna. If this is a 786 fib as well, it is 171. Honestly, back up the truck at 171 because ABC patterns tend to pull back to a 786 fib level. So 170, 170, 171. One more push lower and that should be support. Okay. I'm going to look one more. Okay, I'm not sure the one you're looking for. Okay, there we go. See you all next week. Have a really good week. I still am expecting a bounce in most markets. I can't find your VASF tech. Let's see what that is. Let's hold on. Sorry, I can't find it.